There's a 3-minute timer per speaker. Yes, ma'am. You can pull the microphone down a little, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Tanika Jones. My family has lived in the community for over 50 years, and I have lived on Gardner, north of 9 Mile, for almost 20 years. I have a home for which my family owns. I'm here tonight because I saw the August 7th, 2006 City Council meeting and was alarmed at the hostility towards African American children exhibited by my neighbors and this administration, who used an analogy of hanging troubled youth, and the council member who said that he did not feel sorry for the parents of our troubled youth. Well, I do. As a social service professional, I see that a troubled youth family simply means that this person needs help, and so does their family. After all, it does take a village. This city is sadly polarized, and I am requesting that this administration rescind its call for the police action and possible racial profiling of African American youth walking the streets of Oak Park. I am a graduate of Oak Park High School. I also have a bachelor's in psychology from Michigan State University and a master's in clinical psychology from Columbia University. And police action for this child's play prior to an official public hearing regarding a dictate to target and convict our children is biased, and I believe violates their civil rights. I was surprised to see my neighbors from my actual street appear in the last council meeting without contacting one African American resident on our street. So I have called over 100 members of my family and friends who have children and grandchildren who may be targeted, and I am coming to you to request a public hearing on this matter. I was outraged when I heard the father of a child who made racially motivated, unsolicited remarks to my nephew, and to hear the same person say that our youth were arrested for beating up this same child, the same child who harassed my nephew visiting from Ann Arbor. This child came up on my porch and called my nephew a racially sensitive name. I did not call the police. I called his rabbi. So to hear one of my neighbors say we should hang our children up from trees in the last meeting was very frightening. When a Jewish youth dressed up in a black hooded robe with a Grim Reaper mask and a pitchfork approached my family's car at night, and it was not Halloween, mind you, that was an act of terrorism. But when I called the police, one of my Jewish neighbors was contacted. It was excused as child's play. When one of my Jewish neighbors tailgated my sister from Southfield Road to Gardner, it was frightening to her so badly that she was afraid to get out of her car. We called the police, but nothing happened. All of our youth walk the streets in groups, whether it is from the basketball courts or the synagogues, whether it's from Hebrew schools or Oak Park schools. None of them are perfect, and this community cannot afford to have a double standard. We must come together and learn to appreciate our differences and not to use them as weapons to perpetuate our fears. We should not target a specific ethnic or religious group just because they are different. I am requesting that this administration resolve to treat all Oak Park youth as equal citizens, whether their parents are homeowners or renters, regardless of race, creed, or religion. My question now becomes, what efforts have you made as this present administration to bring us together? Two wrong actions do not make a right one. For if any of our youth does something wrong, then we should apply the same standard to correct them. Or we will create a pre-civil rights atmosphere, and that is not in any of our best interests. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. I'm going to comment more in just a minute, but I'm not sure what you were watching. Nothing was racially motivated. In fact, African Americans have addressed this issue at that same meeting. Former chairperson of the Block Club stood up with everybody else and said the same thing. No mention was made of African American youth. Kids have been crossing the street from the high school. I don't care who they are or what they are. They're daring cars to hit them, and they're making it unsafe for themselves and for our drivers. So regardless of who it is, we have African Americans speaking up, and we have non-African Americans, white people speaking up, whatever your religion. Doesn't matter that they were Jewish, and I'm Jewish, but I've seen this. And my neighbors have been out there doing it to our neighbors as well. It's got nothing to do with racially motivated anything. I'm troubled that you would compare that, and I'm not sure what you're talking about with hanging troubled youth.
Dr. Joseph made the analogy that when he was younger, what happened is when I think in some war, when the men went off to war, what he said was that the youth took over the town. And their solution to that was to hang them from trees.
It's not speaking
and
on
that was
behalf
the
of the
same
city
analogy that
administration.
he put,
Okay.
and when he regarded the children walking from the basketball courts, bouncing basketballs.
Okay, well, first of all, it doesn't